This is Robin Rice, your guide and host. Based on my novel, 100 Ways to Sunday, the drumming and guided imagery on this CD will allow you to discover the ancient shamanic tool of journeying. You will find personal insights and answers to questions about who you are, what you truly dream for yourself, and what might stand in the way of those dreams becoming reality. This is a tool for self-discovery, and many times a sense of personal self-healing as a result. However, journeying is not intended as a replacement for any form of medical or mental health treatment. In fact, if you are under the care of a mental health professional, please inform them that you are using this tool. On track 2, you will hear a discussion between myself and 2 other contemporary shamans, Rosemary Brown and Lynn Roberts Herrick. We will discuss using drumming journeys for self-exploration, including what journeying offers the individual layperson, what you can expect in your first journey, and much more. Please listen to this discussion before taking your first journey. Track 3 has flute music with guided imagery to prepare you for your drumming journey. You will have the opportunity to relax, heighten your senses, and imagine yourself preparing to journey in much the same way as Mary Margaret did. On track 4, the drumming will begin. I will guide you through a journey based on signposts from the novel, including a meeting with Lion, a visit to Kenya's cave, and an opportunity for you to meet and have a discussion with your own personal guides. You will have options about what you wish to do within these signposts, and so may wish to journey to this track many times. Whether it is your first journey or your 10th, always feel free to disregard the words you hear when they do not fit where your intuition wishes to take you. There is really no wrong way to take a journey. Finally, track 5 offers only the beat of a drum. As you become comfortable with the journeying process, you may wish to develop your own relaxation preparations and ceremonies, and use only track 5 so that you are free to journey anywhere your intuitive process takes you. You are ready for this as soon as you feel you are. As Chief says, know what you know. Above all, remember that as you change yourself, you change the world. I thank you for taking these journeys and so making our collective world a better place. Namaste, my friends. This is Robin Rice. Thank you for joining this discussion on self-discovery through drumming journeys. With me today are contemporary shamans Lynn Roberts Herrick and Rosemary Brown. Lynn is a psychotherapist and energy healer that works with Ecuadorian shamans, the bird people of the Andes, Siberian, Guatemalan, and Brazilian shamans, and in fact takes people on international shamanic expeditions to many of these areas. She says that spirituality was very awake for her, even as a young child, and later in life she integrated the teachings of Tibetan Buddhism and other Eastern philosophies that she was exposed to when living in India. Rosemary Brown has a Master of Social Work degree. She's a medical astrologer who integrates both Buddhist and Cherokee philosophies into her work as a practicing shaman, offering journeys that provide soul retrieval and extraction to an international clientele. She began reading Edgar Cayce at the age of 9 and has been involved in a wide variety of energy healing modalities. I thank you both for being with me today, and the first question I'd like to ask both of you is, what is a shaman? Lynn, would you go first?
Well, I think one of the simplest definitions of a shaman is a woman or a man who travels to other worlds, other realities, and in these other realities can access the energy, power, and wisdom that can be used to affect change in this reality. And that's a real simple explanation that encompasses a lot of what shamans do.
Wonderful. Rosemary?
The definition that Lynn gave of what a shaman is very concise, very well put. And for myself, yes, I travel in what's called altered state to retrieve or bring back energies, or actually it's bringing energies into more consciousness, awareness with the person to help them integrate more fully. And that is really the role of the shaman, to help separate or to help clear away the fog just for a brief moment, to allow the person to see their essence so that they can bring that forward. We serve as an enhancer of their own essence of who they are.
I consider myself a contemporary shaman, but I'm actually very new to it. It all came very quickly to me when I finally woke up and realized that I had been doing shamanic work, seeing things that couldn't be seen, those kinds of things since I was very young. I just didn't know anyone else ever did them. So I particularly wanted the three of us to talk on this CD because I've worked with both of you. Both of you have done shamanic work for me. I've had very powerful experiences with that. And at the same time, I also know you, and I know that you're real women, and you have issues, and you haven't got it all together, and neither do I. So it's really exciting to make this accessible to anybody who wants to use it as a tool. You don't have to have the right dress, you don't have to have the right lineage, and all of that. So in this particular CD, people will be taking a journey that guides them through some of the images from my book, 100 Ways to Sunday. And although both of you have done healing work for other people, Mary does a lot of her own self-healing through this. So my question is, how can we self-heal using drumming journeys in particular?
Well, first of all, the drum itself is an incredibly powerful tool. The rhythm of the drum, usually we drum during the journeys, not always. It's not good to become dependent upon the drum. But typically during a shamanic journey, you can be drumming. And the rhythm of the drum takes you to a very relaxed state, similar to a meditative state, what we call a light trance state. And it reconnects you with vital rhythms, our physiological rhythms, the beat of our heart, the pulse of our blood flow, the rhythm of our breathing. It also connects us in a very direct way to the deeper rhythms of the earth. For most of us in this culture especially, we live in a very fast-paced world. Our lives are very fast-paced, and we work with a lot of discordant energies. So the drum really realigns us to more of a primordial rhythm that we've all forgotten, that's intrinsic within our bodies, within our spirits, our hearts, and within our minds. And furthermore, what the journey does is it opens the space to spirit. And what's wonderful about the type of journeying we'll be talking a lot about today is that it directly links us with spirit, with the power of that. And there are very few rules within that relationship because it's unique for all of us.
Mary's journeys were not necessarily typical of the traditional journey, and I want people to be aware of that because, for one thing, they're not all that dramatic. It is a piece of fiction. It is a work that is meant to be dramatic. So some of them are not as dramatic. Some of them are not visual to the degree that this is visual. But in what ways do you think it's typical and atypical, Rosemary, of what you experience when you journey?
Well, Robin, in the different types of journeys that you've had Mary do in the book, I thought there was a wonderful array of different examples because you have taken her through the very basic, the more complicated, the different levels of the journey process. I mean, you have depicted that really well. But journeys can be very detailed, they can be very sensual, they can be very visual. Mary was ready to experience the journeys as Chief had pointed out. And so that readiness, that intention of her, even though she was reluctant at times, still opened her up to the process. There is no absolute form or concise way that a journey will happen, but they can be just very, very sensual, but in the sensual meaning that they can be very colorful, they can be very precise, like you're watching a movie, you see the characters, you see the stage set, you hear the different sounds that are all there, or it can be light, it can be energy, it can be different lifetimes, it can be just any array of different circumstances and visuals that come in during a journey process. But the bottom line with all of it is there's always an emotion, a feeling that is coming up for healing that is needing to be or that's appropriate in the moment for that person. And that readiness and that intention of bringing forth what is necessary is what clears the road. And then it just evolves as it needs to for that person for that time.
Lynn, can you answer that question?
Mary's journeys were very detailed and very visual, and it won't always be the case that our journeys will be as detailed and as visual. And as Rosemary said, there are many different ways to experience journeys through our senses. So it's important for people to remember and to not get hung up if they do not experience very detailed visual, that they may have a feeling experience or a more tactile experience, and that any of the above is what the journey is meant to be for them at that time. The only other thing I'd like to mention is that sometimes a journey does occur that doesn't easily fit into any category. I have had the experience with people and for my own journeys where at times people slip into a very, very deep meditative state, what could be referred to as what the Aborigines call the tasmic state, the dream state. And in those states, oftentimes there's no visual. And oftentimes when people arouse from that state, they don't know whether they've been sleeping or where they've been. But oftentimes it's a very, very deeply healing state, and they feel very rejuvenated and changed after. So there are times when journeys don't fit into any of the above categories, but trust what your experience is.
So the fact that Mary in most of these journeys went to a past life, that was really a part of the story that needed to be told, but that's not always the journeying experience. You may go to the past life, you may go someplace entirely different. You may go into the future. You may go into what we call upper worlds or lower worlds or any other kinds of places. I just want people to not expect to go directly into the most harrowing part of their worst past life in order to heal at the very first journey.
Well, Robin, it's interesting that a past life, if it comes up, you don't always know it's an actual past life, but the timing, the clothes, the scenery is different oftentimes. But the whole issue is it may be just, again, a symbolic representation of an energy pattern that's getting your attention, that it's dressed up a certain way so that you can work with it, so that you can see it and remember it.
That brings up a good point, because I often feel that sometimes it just needs a story to it to get the point across. And so it comes across as what we would say was a past life. But I tell people who don't even believe in past lives, you don't need to believe in past lives. It's going into a story place so you can tell yourself the story that you need to remember about something that's important, something that's not whole in you at this point. Or, on the other hand, something that's incredibly whole and you just want to experience it there. Things that I know a lot of people who are doing their first-time journeys have trouble with is keeping their mind on track. Lynn, do you want to speak to that first?
Well, one of the most important things for me is, before I even begin, that I'm clear about what my intention is, and that holds the space for the entire journey, that just being clear about what my intention is and what I'm about to do.
Is that, do you intentionally hold the intention through the whole space, or do you just set it and let it hold attention?
No. I establish the intention before I begin, and then I just surrender. And that's the other part of keeping on track for me. If I'm not in the most calm state, I may take a few minutes. I may take a few minutes just to breathe, to do a little stretching, just to make sure I'm in my body before I journey, just to strengthen, that connection and the intention. And then I just journey. And I think the most important thing while you're journeying is to really give yourself to the experience fully. Give yourself not only in your mind, because a lot of people may think tracking means I have to keep track with my mind intellectually. And if anything, that can be a major obstacle for us in journeying. So I think relaxing and really being present with what your experience is, no matter what it is, on all levels, in your body, in your feelings, and your mind will be there too, obviously, but we're so used to being predominant with the minds. This is a time when we can relax the mind and let the journey take us. We don't have to work hard for it.
And one of the things that I tell people is don't wait. If you get a sensation, follow it. Don't wait for a better sensation. Don't wait for a better visual. Don't wait for the clouds to open up. Just allow whatever comes up. And if you're feeling a pain in your stomach come up, well, start asking your stomach, what's that about? Rosemary, what do you say?
Well, I think one of the dangers is going in with a lot of expectation, because expectation is all about the mind, and really you want to get to a almost mindlessness in a sense, not totally, but in keeping my mind on track, I have to really disengage my mind because I have such a commentary going on all the time. And so I do what I call my preparation work before a journey, which is just basically asking myself to come in alignment with myself, doing a little prayer work, inviting my higher self to form a connection so that I am quieting the chattering mind that I'm so good at. And it's really important during a journey, you start having a commentary about, oh, that's a silly image. What does that mean? That can't be right, or that's too simplistic, or whatever. There's this commentary that kicks in automatically. But the point is that what does show up out of the multitudes of images that we've been exposed to, why are those images coming up now in this time, at this point? And so follow those images. Ask, what more of a story is there to them? Is there a sensation to them? Is there a feeling to them? Don't discount anything, because it's all about you bringing up your subconscious feeling and emotion and thought that you really want to pay attention to, that will take you to an insight and a healing.
That's one of the exciting things, is when you just keep following these practices and when you keep going at it. And it takes a little while, like anything. It takes a while to turn down the chatter of your mind. And the same thing with meditation. If you're learning to meditate, everybody says it doesn't happen the first time you try it. Sometimes it does. Sometimes amazing things happen. But to not judge, because the judge is the mental brain. And that's where this is a good time to talk about the imagination as our tool. Because we can use our imagination as a tool and direct it like we're directing a movie, or we can simply open our imagination and allow it to come through. And that's certainly what I do when I write and when I go get my stories. I allow it to come through. And when I'm journeying, the point is allowing. And if you're judging, you're directing. Judge later. When you can, when you're done with your journey and you want to write it down, you can say, well, gosh, what do I think that meant? For right now, it just is what it is. And it may be entirely strange and make no sense. And then, so I just go, okay, don't get that one. Next. And move on with it. Or I track it and follow it and ask it. You can ask the most inanimate object a question. Why is that block a red square up there? What are you about? What do you want to say to me? And sometimes that'll be a teacher for me.
I think, Robin, in our culture, we've learned to discount the imagination, though there are very many creative people with a lot of imagination, and it's coming more into vogue in the past, since the 60s, probably. But still, we have that energy, that archetype of things must be in concrete and must have a clear foundation, and imagination is not worth anything. And the shamanic work really does take you more into honoring your imagination, your creativity.
Okay, this is going to be a guided imagery the first time so that people who've read the book can sort of get a feel for places where Kenya was and get bearings, if you will. But what can they expect the first time when they do the journey, and not only when they're doing it, because we've talked about that a little bit, but what can they expect afterwards? Lynn, what would you say to that?
First of all, I think it's good for people not to have too many expectations for what happens the first time, just to really leave it open and to trust the process and really, again, let the journey happen. And any number of things can happen. So just to be open and enjoy the process, relax into it. One thing I've noticed, I think the predominant experience after journeying for people is that they feel more connected. They feel more connected to themselves, to their bodies. They feel more connected to their emotions. They feel more connected to the natural environment. And that in itself is very, very powerful. We don't realize the power in that because we've lost so much of it. It's a simple power, but it's one that we all need. We can't function to our true potential as human beings unless we remember those connections. And they're very ordinary, but very powerful.
I remember with my first soul retrieval, which was specifically meant to be a soul retrieval, and it was done by a shaman, not by myself, I was told that it could take 3 days to 3 months to see, any real effects. And it was, in fact, 3 days. I was walking out in a field, and all of a sudden I just felt this thwomp. And the only way I could describe it was it felt like my soul had put on hiking boots, and there was just more of me there than had ever been there before. To me, it was very profound. It wasn't bells and whistles in the real world, something happening and stars colliding or anything that I could point to. It was all inside of me, but it was profound inside of me. It was a profound shift. And it gave me a sense of the direction I wanted to go. And I think a lot of people, when they start to journey for themselves, really are just looking for which way.
Yes, Robin, that's a very good point, because you are more present so that you can see the opportunity, you can make the decisions that maybe you weren't too sure about or you were unclear about. And suddenly you know what it is that you want to do because you're more present.
Lynn, I know that you don't particularly work a lot with animal spirit guides, and in this particular book, lion is of course a big character, and animals play a part. And in the Native American traditions, I know it's a very strong component to shamanism, but you have worked with shamans from all over the world, and it's not a requirement. So could you speak to that?
Not all spirit guides are animals. Typically, they are in certain cultures. First of all, it's good to remember that we're working again in the journey space. These are very mutable realities, and the guides are shapeshifters. They may be animals sometimes. They may be something else. They may be a crystal. They could be a ball of light. I work with some very powerful shamans, the bird people in the Andes, and they work a lot with volcanoes. Some of them in that area also take on the energies of animals, work very closely, especially in soul retrievals. One woman works with a white dove very closely. But other shamans work very much by shape-shifting into the energy of the volcanoes, and they may also bring in animals with that. But it really varies. But the shapes can change all of the time. In Siberia, there's a very powerful woman that I work with whose main energy is stars. The closest guides I have are the star energies. I work with them a lot in healing. It's important to remember that the guide carries the energy. It's a symbol, and not to get hung up on what that symbol is for you, and that it can change. And whatever it is, it's appropriate to you, and your guide will appear in the most helpful way for you, but that it may change, but that you'll always recognize that guide by the essence. You'll know that essence of your guide. And you may have many guides, too, different ones at different times.
The last question I want to ask is about, as these people that are listening prepare for their first journey, Mary and Chief have a ritual. I don't go too much in depth into it in the book because I think ritual is different for everyone. And there are some traditions, some spiritual traditions that have very elaborate rituals. And I think ritual is important. And ceremony is important, but why it's important is, in my mind, I liken it to sort of the Pavlov's dog. You've done it this way again and again and again, and all of a sudden you have the same reaction. So the reaction is, I relax. When I do this, I know I'm bringing in guides. I know I'm going to journey. It's like telling myself on a very deep level, we're going to journey now. That means you get to relax. That means you're going to open your mind. You're going to go into your imagination space. But tell me a little bit about how each of you, and I'll start with Rosemary, each of you do your own kind of rituals that are unique to you. And of course, we say, obviously, to the people who are listening that they will develop their own.
Absolutely. Everyone is so unique in what their ritual or ceremony becomes, just as in all of our cultures that has been true. But in all the cultures that do the shamanic work, there has been a level of ceremony and ritual to set the energy, as a lot of them refer to it. And by setting the energy, you're setting your intention, which is what it's really about. Setting it, your intention is truly about aligning yourself with the process that's about to go on. Like you were just saying, that you are opening up your heart, you're healing yourself to these parameters, and it's like the signal. Okay, we're going to do this. Just like at a baseball game, they sing the national anthem. Well, we're getting ready for a baseball game, Well, we are getting ready for a healing journey by setting a ritual or ceremony. I do prayer work. I use sound, actually, to set my arena. That is important to me. Some people use sage, but sound for me is what takes me to where I need to be, and that's my signal that my alignment happens and I can come to that peaceful place that will take me where I want to go or what work I want to get done. But it is such a natural state of being that we can shift in and out of that at any moment. But if we're really intending to work on something in particular, it's like telling our higher self, okay, this is serious, let's get something done about it. And by setting that arena with this ritual or the ceremony, is setting those parameters to increase the flow of that healing energy, to take the foreground. This is what we're doing.
All right, Lynn?
I used to do more ritual when I began journeying years ago, and I do less of it now. And I think ritual can be a very important tool for centering and for creating and holding the space for the journey. I've found that shamans are masters. They're so flexible, they can work with any situation. There are stories of shamans who, were at a healing engagement and come to find out that they left an hour away all of their healing tools and stones. And so here they were, in the spot of the moment with all these people waiting for healings, and all they had was their hands and whatever they could muster in the moment. And so they did these incredible healings. So it's important always to remember not to become dependent on any tools, on any rituals, any form, or the drum, whatever, although these can enhance an experience and they can make it be a powerful container. And that also that journeying can be done at any place, at any time, that something may be coming up for you that you need an answer to, and you can, for a moment, listen to the leaves rustling through the trees and go into that space within a few moments and be certain of an answer that you needed. It can happen that quickly. So both are true, that ritual is a powerful enhancer, and also, on the other hand, there's no rules and nothing beyond yourself that's needed to do that.
Which Mary found when she had to do her last journey and she was with Puck and they were walking to the waterfall, and she couldn't just go and take a psychotropic drug. She couldn't, there was no one to drum for her. She put her hand up to her own pulse and used that as her drum. I was hoping to get across that there are so many different ways that we can go in. There's so many different tools, so many different allies that we have towards this.
And Robin, I think way back when in our ancient cultures that the ritual and ceremony had more of an importance because it was part of the show of healing that the medicine people did to get the attention of the person that they were helping. And so now in our more modern days, we may not need that same type, but always going to the natural sound, the natural feeling, the natural elementals will help us shift our perception, which is all that we really need to do to get to that healing state.
Wonderful. I thank both of you for sharing this journey with us today, and we will get on with the journeys for those people who are listening.
Thank you so much. It's been wonderful.
As you prepare to journey, take a deep breath and exhale slowly. Sit or lie down in a comfortable position, making sure your legs and arms are uncrossed, opening yourself to deep relaxation. If you wish, you may place yourself in the position that Chief taught Mary. This position is reported to have origins with the South American Indians, and it may offer a more powerful journeying experience. If you choose this option, lie flat on your back, face up. Place the back of your left wrist on your forehead, centering it just above your nose. Place your right arm gently to your side, palm facing down. Be sure your eyes are closed and there is no pressure on them. Breathe into the moment, this one place in space and time, allowing any concerns or uncertainties to flow into your lungs and out with your breath. You may wish to imagine yourself on the red dirt of the canyon floor. A dry wind caressing your body. The scent of sage in the air. With closed eyes, see Chief beside you, a softly glowing old man in a flowing white shirt and pants. See him nod to you in honor of your journey, his eyes sparkling with acceptance and love. As you breathe in peace and honor, watch Chief open his sacred medicine bundle, bringing out his sacred objects: feathers, stones, a magnificent crystal, a copper bowl, a wand of sage, a turtle shell, and a horse hoof rattle. See him draw a circle in the sand, which you know to be a sacred symbol of the medicine wheel. And then see him turn to you and say, "It is time to remember what you have always known. Remember who you are, and so reclaim your every innate power." Feel Chief move about you, lighting sage, and with elegant sweeps, letting the smoke surround himself, and then your body, preparing you for a clear and powerful journey. Hear him chant softly in a language you do not know, and rattle his horse hooves as he faces the 4 directions, honoring the east, the south, the west, the north. Watch him lift the rattle to honor the above world and lower it toward the ground to honor the below world. And now, his chanting and rattling complete, see Chief indicate he is ready to drum for you. Prepare to hear the drumming begin, opening yourself to allowing it to find its way into your arms and hands, your legs and feet, and your whole body. Prepare to allow the resonations to enter your veins, and finally into the beat of your own heart, moving you out of your mind and into your senses. In the distance, see a large tree with roots open and waiting to take you to Kenya, the keeper of all records. And now we begin. Allow yourself to adjust to the beat of the drum. Feel the dirt below you. Smell the sagebrush. Feel the dry canyon air and a breeze across your body. Move closer to the portal to the underworld, through a hole in the ground or in the base of a tree. If you wish, imagine Mary's tree, the one whose roots are showing at the side of a creek that has receded. Find yourself going into the tree roots, your mood one of expectation and assurance that this is the right place for you to be at this moment. Feel yourself enter the darkness, feeling a sense of being nowhere, between worlds, yet going somewhere. Down, you feel it tug you, and then sideways. There is nothing but the darkness of your eyelids, nothing beyond the vast, empty tombs of your mind. They feel hollow and clear as you move beyond them to find that place where you know what you know, that place in the center of your stomach. Feel yourself being pulled from this place with a sense of assurance and knowing. Though it is dark, you begin to have a sense that you are not alone. Allow that sense to grow in you, deeper and stronger, until lion appears to your left. Fierce and muscled, yet you know that she is a helper. Notice how huge she is, the alpha female, moving with profound intent. An old friend, she is taking you to Kenya. You speak without words. Allow her to guide you through the darkness and listen for any words she might have to say as you travel. If she does not speak, notice any sensations in your body. Those too can be messages. I will be quiet for a moment so that you might hear lion clearly. Very good. Now notice yourself moving forward into a huge forest of gigantic trees, vivid in color and shape. Smell the forest pine needles and the moist earth, and see appear before you a host of animals. Behind them, dozens of tall pillars of light, illuminated brightly from within, emitting a glow 10 times that of Chief. Yet they do not overly brighten this underworld. Surrounding you are trees, alive and animated. Perhaps for the first time, you see them for what they are. Gift givers, oxygen providers, spirit beings as shapeshifters in their own right. In unison, see this heavenly crowd bow to you, honoring your courage and willingness to journey, to better know who you really are. Feel the reverence of these beings who honor your earth journey, and let that reverence fill your body with hope and assurance that you are on the right path. And now, turning to your right, you see a cave-like structure and a door. Go on, you hear lions say. Before you, the cave door begins to open. Once inside, it closes, hemming you into a small, dark room. Slowly, a door on the other side opens to a warm, candlelit room that smells of oily lemon and heavy saffron. Welcome, I am Kenya, the keeper of all records says. It has been so long. She extends an elegant, slender hand to yours, and you have the sense that you are good friends. As she moves to make you tea, you notice she appears human, and yet not quite. As if she is something between a flesh and blood woman and a spirit. Her skin is black with an odd texture, like that of construction paper. She seems larger than life, though her size is no greater than your own. Her clothes, patterned in swirls of bright red, yellow, orange, and rich browns, sway with her thin upper body and padded hips. Her jet black hair is cut short, creating the illusion of her head being shaved. You can see the contours of her huge skull, which seems to hang too far over the back of her neck. She is strange and enchanting. Finished with her task, she nods delicately, inviting you to sit. You find a seat on one of the many huge, overstuffed chairs, perfectly matched to her outfit, and sink into comfort. At this point, you become aware that you have options on this journey. You may choose to sit with Kenya and and speak to her about any concerns you have, any ways in which your life is not all that you dream. You may wish to ask her for a transfer request, to plant a seed in your own future, or discuss various options you see for yourself. Or you may wish to journey to her special window that looks out onto the galaxy of space. Moving towards this window, you see 1,000,000 stars and planets that seem within touching distance. Hearing exquisite music pour out the window, you may wish to ask her about a person or event in your life. In response, you can witness her carefully drawing a ball of light toward you until it becomes like a living, breathing geometric form made of tiny, intricate patterns. You notice amazing crystal formations. The patterns are beautiful. They are pure art. Drawing this form closer, you place your hand in the energy field that surrounds it, and so begin to know more about that person or event. Finally, you may wish to travel out beyond the room. Finding a back door, you make your way to another place, where you will meet another guide, your own personal guide that has long been a part of your spiritual path and has been waiting to meet you directly, here and now. Take this moment to make your choice, or simply let the journey draw you where it will. At the sound of the drum beating double time, remember to return out Kenya's door, find Lion, and go back up through the portal you came in through. Blessings on your journeys, my friends. You are walking between the drum beats now.